choose peace over needless arguments. Have you ever been accused of something, and before you could even explain yourself, the other person had already decided that you were wrong? They don't want to hear your side. They don't ask what really happened. They don't give you the opportunity to explain. They have already made up their mind. And sometimes, no matter what you say, they still find a way to blame you. In moments like these, it is natural to feel the urge to defend yourself. You want to explain every detail. You want to correct every misunderstanding. You want them to know that they got it wrong. But sometimes, the greatest wisdom is knowing when to speak and when to remain calm. Because not every accusation deserves a reaction. Not every misunderstanding requires an argument. And not every person who blames you is genuinely interested in understanding you. Sometimes, they have already chosen the version of the story they want to believe. And when someone is determined to misunderstand you, you can spend hours explaining yourself and still not change their mind. That is why you must learn the difference between defending your truth and fighting for someone's approval. You are allowed to explain yourself. You are allowed to correct a false accusation. You are allowed to speak when something important needs to be addressed. But you don't have to turn every accusation into a battle. Because there are moments when responding emotionally only makes the situation worse. You may begin with the intention of explaining yourself, but before you know it, the conversation has become an argument. Voices become louder. Words become harsher. Old issues are brought into the conversation. And suddenly, the original problem is no longer the problem. Now, both people are simply trying to prove who is right. And what was supposed to be a simple conversation becomes a fight that leaves everyone exhausted. This is why emotional maturity is so important. Emotional maturity is not pretending that you don't care. It is not allowing people to walk over you. And it is not being afraid to speak. It is knowing that you don't have to react to everything you hear. Sometimes you can hear an accusation. Take a breath. Think carefully. And decide, this conversation is not going to steal my peace. That decision alone can save you from many unnecessary conflicts. Because when you react immediately, you give your emotions control over your response. But when you pause, you give yourself the opportunity to choose your response wisely. And there is a powerful difference between reacting and responding. A reaction is often driven by emotion. A response is guided by wisdom. A reaction says, "How dare you accuse me?" A response says, "I know what happened, and I don't need to lose myself trying to prove it." A reaction wants to win the argument. A response wants to preserve peace. And sometimes, preserving your peace is more valuable than winning an argument. Think about how many conflicts could have ended much earlier if one person had simply chosen to remain calm. Sometimes people are not looking for an explanation. They are looking for a reaction. They want you to become angry so they can point to your anger as evidence that you are the problem. They provoke you, you respond emotionally, and then the conversation becomes about your reaction instead of what started the situation. That is why you must be careful. Not every invitation to argue deserves your participation. You don't have to enter every battlefield simply because someone has called your name. You don't have to answer every accusation immediately. You don't have to prove yourself to everyone. And you certainly don't have to destroy your peace just because someone has decided to misunderstand you. There will be people who believe they are always right, even when they are wrong. They may listen only to respond. They may hear only what supports their opinion. They may reject your explanation because accepting it would require them to admit that they misunderstood the situation. And when you encounter someone like this, arguing harder may not help. Sometimes the wiser choice is to speak clearly once, and then step back.
You can say, "I have explained my side. You may choose what you believe, but I will not argue about it." There is strength in that kind of calmness, because you are not surrendering your truth. You are simply refusing to turn your truth into a shouting match. And sometimes, silence can communicate something that 100 explanations cannot. Silence can say, "I know who I am." Silence can say, "I don't need your approval to know my intentions." Silence can say, "I refuse to become the person this argument is trying to turn me into." But there is something important to understand. Choosing peace does not mean you should tolerate every form of mistreatment. Being calm does not mean being passive. You can be calm and still set boundaries. You can be respectful and still say no. You can refuse to argue while making it clear that an accusation is unfair. You can walk away from an argument without walking away from your values. There is a difference between peace and weakness.
Peace is having the strength to control yourself. Weakness is allowing fear to prevent you from doing what is right. Sometimes you need to speak. Sometimes you need to clarify. Sometimes you need to stand up for yourself. But you should do it with wisdom, not anger. Ask yourself, will responding to this actually solve anything? Is this person willing to listen? Am I explaining myself because it is necessary, or because I desperately want to be understood? What will I gain if I win this argument? And perhaps the most important question, is this worth my peace? Because not every battle deserves your energy. Your life is already filled with things that require your attention. Your goals require your attention. Your family requires your attention. Your growth requires your attention. Your future requires your attention. So don't spend all your emotional energy trying to convince someone who has already decided what they want to believe. Sometimes the best response is simply to live your life with integrity. Let your character speak. Let your consistency speak. Let your actions speak. Because over time, people often discover the difference between what someone says about you and who you actually are. You don't have to chase every rumor. You don't have to answer every opinion. You don't have to defend yourself against every misunderstanding. Time has a way of revealing things that arguments cannot. And this is one of the most difficult lessons in life. You cannot control what people choose to believe about you. You can control your character. You can control your response. You can control your decisions. You can control whether you allow anger to consume you. But you cannot control another person's mind. Some people will misunderstand you. Some will judge you unfairly. Some will hear only one side of a story. Some may even blame you because accepting responsibility themselves would be uncomfortable. And as painful as that can be, you must learn to accept that you cannot correct every person's perception of you. Your responsibility is to live honestly, to treat people with respect, to acknowledge your mistakes when you make them. And when you are falsely accused, to handle the situation with wisdom.
Don't become obsessed with proving yourself. Don't let someone else's opinion become the measure of your worth. And don't allow another person's anger to become your anger. Protect your peace. There is something powerful about a person who can remain calm when everyone expects them to react. When people are shouting, they remain composed. When people are accusing, they listen. When people are provoking, they pause. Not because they have nothing to say, but because they understand that every word has consequences. They know that once words are spoken in anger, they cannot always be taken back. So they choose their words carefully. They choose their battles carefully. And sometimes they choose silence. Not because they are afraid, but because they are wise enough to know that peace is worth protecting. Maybe someone has misunderstood you. Maybe someone has blamed you without hearing your side. Maybe you have tried to explain yourself, but they still refuse to understand. If that is your situation, take a moment to breathe. You don't have to solve everything today.
You don't have to force someone to understand you. You don't have to keep repeating yourself. If you have spoken honestly and respectfully, sometimes the next step is simply to step back. Let them think what they want to think. Let time reveal what arguments cannot reveal. And most importantly, don't allow their behavior to change who you are. If they are disrespectful, don't become disrespectful. If they are angry, don't allow their anger to control you. If they accuse you unfairly, don't respond with another unfair accusation. You don't have to become like the person who hurt your peace. You can choose a better way. You can walk away with your dignity intact. You can sleep peacefully, knowing that you did not allow a difficult moment to turn you into someone you are not. Remember this: you do not have to attend every argument you are invited to. Some conversations deserve your voice. Others deserve your silence. Some accusations require clarification. Others require no response at all. Wisdom is knowing the difference.
And as you grow older, you will discover that peace is not something you find by making everyone agree with you. Peace comes when you stop needing everyone to agree with you. You know your heart. You know your intentions. You know the effort you have made. And when you have made a genuine mistake, have the humility to admit it. But when you know you have been misunderstood, don't destroy yourself trying to convince someone who refuses to listen. Stand in truth. Stay calm. Keep moving. Because your life is bigger than one accusation. Your future is bigger than one misunderstanding. And your peace is more valuable than winning an argument that may not even matter tomorrow. So the next time someone accuses you without hearing your side, pause, breathe, think, and ask yourself, does this deserve my reaction? Maybe it does. Maybe you need to calmly explain. Or maybe it doesn't. Maybe the wisest thing you can do is let the moment pass. Not every accusation deserves a reaction. Not every argument deserves your energy. Not every misunderstanding deserves a long explanation. Sometimes the strongest thing you can say is nothing at all. And sometimes the greatest victory is not proving that you are right. It is walking away with your peace still intact. So choose your battles. Guard your words. Control your emotions. Stand for what is right. Admit your mistakes when necessary. But don't allow the need to be understood by everyone to become a prison. Let your character speak. Let your actions speak. Let time speak. And above all, choose peace over needless arguments. Because in the end, you will realize that some battles were never worth fighting in the first place.
Thank you for spending these few moments with me. And before you move on with your day, remember this. You don't have to respond to everything that disturbs your peace. Choose your battles wisely. Protect your peace. And never forget that sometimes your calmness is more powerful than your argument. This is Reflection Time with SA. Until we meet again, take a moment to reflect and choose wisely.